Hi everyone, welcome back to Trees and Turtles. My name is Imogen. In today's video, I'm talking about homeschooling. So I was homeschooled from the ages of 5 to 17, and then I went to sixth form for 2 years, and then I went to university. And these are 7 things that I found hard about navigating the world as a former homeschooled kid. So if you're not already subscribed, make sure to do that, give this video a thumbs up, follow me on Instagram, and let's get started. So a lot of the content I see online about homeschooling is from a sort of like parental perspective, like parents who homeschool their kids and they're like, oh, you know, this is great. So I wanted to kind of give like a different perspective. I am the kid, and it was kind of difficult for me to like come out of the homeschooling bubble and integrate into society. And there were other factors in that. But yeah, let's get started with the video and we will talk about it. So, number 1 was religion. So, as well as being homeschooled, and this isn't like not a hard and fast rule, but a lot of the time when parents homeschool a kid, it is for religious reasons. Like they don't want their kid to be exposed to the big bad sinful world. And that was very much the case in my case. So, I was raised Catholic, quite hardcore Catholic. And my background included both the religious aspect and the homeschooling aspect, and both of them were kind of integrated as well. So I found it kind of difficult to determine what my own beliefs actually were after living in a little religious homeschool bubble for so long. I remember going to sixth form and being like very confused when I found out that the world was not in fact like totally evil, and there were lots of good things about like my friends who were predominantly atheist. I was like so confused, and then I went to university and that confusion just kicked up a notch. I stopped going to church when I was in my first year of university, just right at the end, for other reasons as well. But yeah, it was really sort of interesting to kind of observe that environment that I'd been raised in, and then to actually just go to like a more sort of open environment when I started university, when I started my A-levels, and just to kind of like watch those two worlds collide in my brain, as it were. So that was really difficult because I'd been raised with one set of values and kind of been told very definitively what to believe, and then I kind of found out that those weren't true, and I was like, shit, you know, what do I believe now? So that was one aspect. Let's move on to number 2. Number 2 was cultural references. Okay, so growing up I didn't watch like TV, I didn't watch movies, I didn't really listen to pop music, so I was way behind on everything. Like I remember, I've told this story before, but I'll tell it again because it's really funny, or at least it's funny in hindsight. It was embarrassing at the time. I went to a party in my first year of university. It was just like a little gathering that was held in one of the other people's rooms in my halls at college, and I was like sitting down like chatting, and there was a sort of a playlist on, and at one point I turned to the person next to me and I said, oh, you know, I think I recognise this song, what's this song? And he looked at me funny and he said, it's Toxic by Britney Spears, why did you not know that? And I was like, oh my god. So I kind of had like cultural references that are like seeped through, but I didn't know like anything. So I had to like speed run the whole catch up. So yeah, I've been like sort of, I don't know, like mainlining pop culture and listening to a lot of music, watching a lot of movies, watching a lot of TV shows in the last like 3 or 4 years, because I just didn't like have access to all of that before, and it kind of made me a bit socially isolated because I couldn't connect with a lot of my peers on what they were talking about. And I was like, what do you mean? You know, I've never watched that, I've never read that, I haven't heard of that artist. So that kind of like cultural speed run that I put myself through was really great for catching up, but I kind of wish I hadn't had to do that. All right, number 3, family relationships. So, for those of you who are new on this channel, hi, hello, welcome. Please make sure to subscribe because you obviously want to see more of this content, don't you? For those of you who've been on my channel for a while, I may have mentioned before, I've definitely mentioned before, that I'm estranged from my mother. And that is very much to do with her attitude of parenting, her attitude of all of this. Okay, so I'm not going to go into like too many details. If you're interested, I can do a dedicated video, but I am estranged from my mother since 2023, and I kind of find it hard sometimes to see people who have positive relationships with their mothers because I don't really understand what that's like. So yeah, it kind of made it difficult for me to connect with other people socially on that level as well, in terms of like when I see a person who has like a healthy relationship with their mother, I'm like, I can't relate. And when I see people, and this actually this is kind of a trend among a lot of my friends, not all of them, but a lot of my friends have like difficult family relationships, and we kind of like bonded or related to each other on that level. So yeah, it kind of, it makes me feel a little bit alien at times because I don't necessarily understand what that dynamic's like. All right, number 4. Is this number 4? This is number 4. Friendships. Okay, I wasn't really that great at making friends. I know it's a stereotype, but it is kind of true. It's basically, you will have a certain outcome on the development of a child if you isolate them to an extent socially, and or pick their friends for them, and or, you know, make a lot of decisions for them. So that's kind of what happens to me, and I know it's a stereotype. The complete side note, actually, if you really want to understand what my perspective was like as a homeschooled kid, you should go and listen to Ballad of a Homeschooled Girl by Olivia Rodrigo, because when she released that song, I put it on repeat for like, I don't know, like several weeks. Like, I just listened to that song nonstop and I was like, oh my god, everything she's saying in the song I completely connect with. So if you want a quick like 2-3 minute summary of what it's like, that is the song for you. Anyway, friendships. I wasn't really that great at making friends. I did have a few friends, but not that many. And I remember like being like starting my A-levels, going into 6th form, and finally being able to like choose who my friends were. And this was like completely like new to me, and I was like, oh my god, what do I do? So like the closest friends that I have from 6th form right now, one of them like basically adopted me, and I love that. He just walked up to me and was like, you know, let's be friends, and we have been friends for like ages. And the other one, I literally walked up to her and I was like, do you want to be my friend? And I realized that's a sort of a kind of a kindergarten approach to it. But seriously, the last time I was in that environment was literally in kindergarten. I went to kindergarten for a year when I was 4 to 5. So I guess I kind of had that sort of social approach, but it worked. And I now have these wonderful friends. But yeah, that kind of like approach to making friendships seemed very primitive to me now, because now I understand much better how to make friendships like as an older teenager and as an adult. But yeah, back then I was like absolutely clueless, and I was very lucky to find some lovely people who wanted to be my friend. And yeah, it's as simple as that. All right, let's move on and talk about dating. So, oh my god, okay, so because it was kind of a combination of like me being home all the time because I was homeschooled, and not seeing anyone around my own age, and certainly not seeing any boys around my own age, and also being very, very religious, you can see how this adds up to me absolutely having zero clue what to do in terms of dating. So my first experience of dating was when I was at university, because when I was in 6th form, I was just really, really focused on like my grades. But once I got into Durham, I was like, okay, I can use this time to kind of not relax per se, but explore more socially and explore more from a dating perspective. Okay, so I was clueless though. I was like so fucking innocent. I had to like self-educate via Google, and like through trial and error, and it was kind of a nightmare. I mean, my Google search history from that period is very embarrassing, and it's not embarrassing in terms of the actual like, it's not embarrassing in terms of like I was trying to learn about like dating and relationships. It's embarrassing in that the stuff I was Googling was very basic. Like, I feel like I should have known it already. This was not a fun process. I cannot lie. It was not a fun process. It got me into, like, I was so innocent that I got into, like, I had too much trust for people, and I got into situations which I should not have been in, and that was really scary and left me with some trauma. But I wised up and got out of those situations, and it's been like a learning process. And also I did have some very lovely experiences. It wasn't all like doom and gloom, but I kind of wish I hadn't been so innocent, because it kind of fucked me over a lot of the time. I do feel a lot better about it now, and I have been in some very healthy and positive and fulfilling relationships, so I'm hugely grateful for that and for the sort of period of self-development which led to that. But the first year or so was absolutely wild, and not in a good way. All right, let's talk about education. So obviously when you're like homeschooled, your parents kind of have like full control over your education. And the first time that I went to school formally was in sixth form. I don't really count kindergarten because it was like a school environment, but we were mostly just doing like colouring in and story time, and it's not really like a study environment, although I did absolutely love kindergarten and it was one of the best years of my childhood. So in terms of like formal education, due to being homeschooled, I actually finished my GCSEs a year late and without several important subjects, because I was self-teaching a lot of them. So for example, I never took GCSE biology, I never took GCSE chemistry, so the only science I had was physics. I also had maths. I took English language, but not English literature, so that was kind of a bummer. That was like a real downer. And yeah, so I only got like 7 subjects, and my lack of background in chemistry meant that I struggled with several modules at university. I remember showing up for one of my modules and being like, oh shit, you know, this is chemistry. Like, I'd read the description and the lecturer was like, oh, it's fine, you've got GCSE chemistry, you'll be fine. And I was like, okay. I did actually pass that module and I got a 2-1 and I was very proud. But yeah, it made me cry a lot more often than it should have done. So that was not good. I had a lot of catching up to do on understanding a sort of formal education environment when I reached sixth form. So when I sort of like, I joined sixth form for my A-levels, it was kind of the first time I'd been in like a school environment, and it was like completely new to me. And it was a really, like, I attribute sixth form to me being a normal person. Okay, like obviously Durham was really helpful for that, but also if you had seen how weird I was before starting sixth form, you would be amazed at like what I'm like today. Okay, so like sixth form was really formative into turning me into a functional human being, and a sort of reasonable, like rational, logical person. So yeah, I will always I always go on about like my 2 years at sixth form as some of the best of my life for this reason, and it really helped me understand like how to learn in a formal like environment. Not that I didn't have like deadlines and targets when I was homeschooled, but when I was homeschooled, so much time was just wasted on irrelevant stuff, and it was just, yeah, it was kind of a nightmare. And I'd always be like, can I do more subjects? And I'd be like met with like no, or so it was just a nightmare, and I do not recommend it. So education was really difficult for me to catch up on in some ways, knowing that like my peers at sixth form and at university kind of had like a grounding in certain subjects that I didn't, and I just had to work my ass off basically, and that kind of pissed me off because I could have been learning this stuff already, but I didn't. All right. After that little education rant, let's talk about independence. And this is the last thing that I want to talk about in this video. You're probably happy about that because this video is like so long already. But independence. I was really sheltered and I had a lot of work to do in therapy about learning to stand up for myself and improving my mental resilience. Because I think when I was like, this definitely helped like form my people pleaser tendencies as well. Like my sort of experience in homeschooling was very much about, you know, being kind of a yes man, and I was not very good at thinking independently, and I was not very good at, you know, challenging like ideas of people in positions of authority. So I had to learn to think critically and learn to think independently for myself through therapy, through sixth form, through university, through like interactions with my friends, and all of those people who contributed to that. I will always be endlessly grateful for that kind of like education in that sort of, in those kind of skills which I should have known but didn't. Although my situational resilience was amazing. Okay, this is something that I recently realised in therapy. My situational resilience was amazing. Like, I could go through the most horrendous situations and not bat an eyelid, but my mental resilience was nowhere. It was horrible. Like, I would, you know, someone would like, I don't know, leave me on red for 2 hours and I'd be like, oh, why do they fucking hate me? You know, I think I should die. So that was like, it was a really like humbling realization to know that my situational resilience was fantastic, but my mental resilience was basically non-existent. And my mental health would be really badly affected by even trivial like negative situations, and I'd still cope with them, but I'd feel like shit while I was doing it. So learning to take a healthier attitude to those was absolutely key. And learning a lot about like just being an independent adult since I've lived alone has actually been really fantastic. So when I say, like, in other videos, like my living alone videos, that it was really important for me to live alone at this point in my life from a developmental perspective, this is kind of what I mean. Because, yeah, it's just been a huge process of, like, learning how to exist in the world. Yeah, these are 7 things I found hard about navigating life as a homeschooled kid. Now, if you are a homeschooling parent, don't come after me in the comments. I have dealt with enough of that. But if you genuinely want to learn more about my experience, and you know, if you're a parent who's thinking about homeschooling their kids, then please don't. I'm sure you're lovely, but please don't. And yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions which are posed in good faith, shall we say. If you're looking to come after me for my opinions, then I will remove your comment. Thank you very much, because this is going to be a positive space, and also this is my space. So I have boundaries now. Isn't it great? I have boundaries now. But yeah, any questions asked in good faith will be answered in good faith. And that is the end of this video. If you're not already subscribed, please do that. Give this video a thumbs up. Follow me on Instagram. I'll see you next time. Okay, bye.